Man, I want to welcome you to our brand new show. Man, it's Dirty Politrikz, man. And I'm in the building. I'm the five-star general. I got the recovering Democrat, Donovan Sadiq, and my good friend, let's just call him a very important person that go get the dirt. My good friend Chuck Mauler is in the building. I know everybody want to know what's the deal with Dirty Politrikz, man. Dirty politics is what we deal with on a daily basis, no matter where it comes from. It can come from the Republican Party, Democratic Party, Independent Party. But on this show, we're going to expose a lot of the dirt that is going on with these politicians. It doesn't matter if you're black, and I know a lot of y'all are going to watch this. It doesn't matter if you're black. It doesn't matter if you're white. Doesn't matter what your race, nationality may be. If you're dirty, you're getting exposed on this show if we get wind of it. I'm just letting you know. So I'm gonna let my guys introduce themselves, tell you a little bit about themselves, and then we'll get down to business. What's going on?
Right. Hey, Chuck, you go ahead and go first.
Okay. My name's Chuck Marler. I grew up in Louisiana. I moved to Houston in 1992 to work for the FBI. With the FBI, I did undercover surveillance work. And then I became a private investigator 13 years ago.
Nice. Now, for you guys that know of me or have heard of me, I'm the recovering Democrat. I'm out here in Southern California. Ex-Air Force officer, pilot, 12th degree, Mr. Knowledgeable man here. I was also born in Louisiana. That's what I call it, Louisiana, because where I was born is pretty lousy. And hey, we're over here to help get this stuff done and educate these people on what's really going on with their elected servants.
All right, I tell you what, man. Let's start a little bit. You know, of course, I'm in Harris County. Chuck's in Harris County, Texas. City of Houston, surrounding areas. So ain't none of you people finna be off limits. If you ain't right, you ain't right. Now I'll play the bad guy. I love calling names out. And you know why I can call your name out? Because you don't have the balls to sue me for defamation of character because I get a discovery phase in the courtroom. So be careful. Just sit back. Pray to God we don't mention you because at the end of the day, we're going to expose you for what you're truly worth. Down here in Harris County, we got a serious problem. Across the country, you've heard a lot of people screaming, you know, especially from the Republican side, that there is a lot of voter fraud going on. And, you know, the first thing everybody wants to say is it's not true. It doesn't happen. It's not true. It is what it is. That's your perception. Your perception is your reality. In Harris County, it is true. It is true. We've proven it over and over and over again. We have a district attorney that will not do anything about it. We have a county attorney that will not do anything about it. It doesn't surprise me because most of the time it involves their Democratic friends. So it involves their Democratic friends. So that's the reason why they won't do anything about it. Voter harvesting in Harris County is a major problem. You know, voter harvesting, people going out, soliciting mail-in ballots and filling out ballots for people that they should not be doing. That is a violation of the law. Um, you even have voter fraud as far as the drive-through voting. We've found like 20, 30 IDs sitting in a voting poll, just sitting on the table. And we know that when we go in to vote, you present your ID, they scan it, they give it back. So why would you have an excess of IDs sitting on the table? Now there's a big hoopla going on in the state of Texas about voter integrity, about Jim Crow 2.0. Y'all done heard it, and that's from both sides of the coin. I was one of the guys that went to the Texas state legislation and testified in front of the committee and supported the voter integrity laws that needed to change because I know that they have been cheating and I have personally caught them my damn self. So the thing is they want you to believe that it's not going on. They want you to believe they have nothing to do with it. Your local elected officials, which is a lie. There is what I call kingmakers. in Harris County, kingmakers. And those are upper echelon politicians who have their hand all over the voting process. And it looked like every time you look up, they getting caught with their pants down. If it's not personally them, it's people on their team that are getting caught, doing dirty stuff. I think it was about a year ago, Diane Troutman, which what was Diane's position, Chuck?
She was the county clerk.
The county clerk sat in a meeting, and at that point, the county commissioner, Rodney Ellis, wanted to send out 3 million mail-in ballots to everybody because of the pandemic. No. According to what I know, Ms. Troutman told Mr. Ellis in that meeting that this wasn't the climate to do that. Now, Diane fought for years to become the county clerk. She had ran multiple times, and she hadn't won, and finally she won. 2 days after she said what she said, she resigned the position. Because to me, she didn't want to be involved with what she thought was about to be massive election fraud. She did not want to be involved in it. And like I say, if y'all got a problem with me, man, go on and sue me in one of your friends' courtrooms. And if you win, I got a lawnmower. That's all you're going to get out the deal anyway. So Diane decides she wants to leave. And then all of a sudden, we see a bunch of shifting and moving, creating in the election positions that have nothing to do with nothing, putting their friends in positions of power. Now, I want to dispel a couple of lies. I have never seen a poll worker attack anybody. I worked the polls for many years. I've never seen an election worker bother anybody in a polling place. But what is some things that are unethical, and it's coming from the Democratic side in Harris County. Now, I don't expect for the commissioner to open his mouth. You caught up in the middle of it. I don't expect the DA to do anything about it because some of the people that we'll be talking about actually worked on it. So at the end of the day, it is massive voter fraud going on down here in Harris County. And what I'll do is I'll turn this over to Chuck. Give us some examples. Because what we're not going to do on this show, all of y'all out there that's watching that just want to be nosy, we ain't going to give it all to you in one night. We're going to make you keep that. Give us some examples of some of the stuff that you've done, Chuck, and some of the things that you found.
Okay, so I'll start off with, I was helping out with Tony Busby's campaign for mayor. And I was confused about some of the numbers towards the end of that. And several people that I'd been working with told me, they said, "Hey, Chuck, they ran the game on you." And I was kind of naive. I was like, what was the game? What did they, how did they run a game on it? They said, well, with absentee ballots. And they said that
5-star, you got some feedback.
Is it me?
No, it was 5-star. Go ahead.
Okay. So they said that they were going to nursing homes, that they had a couple of the ladies that would help out were nurses and had access to the nursing homes through friends and through payoffs. And they were voting for lots of people in these nursing homes. They were taking advantage of them. Then they were voting for dead people. They were signing up people who never would vote, and they're voting for them. And then what I've found out too recently is
you guys give me a few minutes.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
They were filling out absentee ballots and sending them in. Is it me?
No, it's 5-star. Go ahead.
Okay. They were sending them in for people. So in other words, there's lots of duplicate ballots coming in, and the second one's the one that gets tracked, not the first one. So they're beating these people to the punch and voting for them. And so it was a progression of who's doing it, who's organizing it. In other words, you've got ringleaders that come up with the plan that pay for it. In other words, they get the funding from the different politicians that want it. And then they've got ground teams that are out doing this. And we've found evidence on a large amount of their ground teams. And some of those people have talked about the people at the top that are doing this. Okay. So, for example, some of what we've done recently is we've got several dead people that I called their relatives and talked to their adult children who I have on tape telling me they don't know anything about somebody filling out an absentee ballot for their family. And they told me when their parents passed away, which I already had the information as to when, but I needed confirmation. These people weren't happy about it. And I had one lady that I talked to recently that was in New Orleans, and she hadn't lived in Houston in over 20 years, and people have been voting for her. One of the issues that these people that are doing this have is some people that were pretty smart came up with the system, but they're letting idiots run it who have big time criminal records for forgery, for assault, for theft. And so the people that dreamed up this plan were too high and mighty or too lazy to go do it themselves. And so now they've set a problem for them, because these people that are doing it are so lazy, they'll do 100 ballots at one time with almost the same signature, one right after the other. Okay. We've turned this over to the Secretary of State, who's going to be turning it over to the Texas AG. So there will be an investigation. And the other problem they have is this isn't one person filling out one absentee ballot for one individual. This is a handful of people filling out thousands of ballots for absentee people. So there's no way around a conspiracy. This is a conspiracy, and these are felonies coming down.
Well, let me ask you this, Chuck, because, I'm an independent. I'm a recovering Democrat. I finally wised up and just, did what I had to do for the Democrats. A lot of people watching this show and across the country will just say, like what you do, the FBI. Here in my city, I helped expose one of the biggest bribes in FBI history of an elected official. It was here in Moreno Valley, California. $2.3 million bribe was given to a councilman here. So I was kind of part of that to help expose that. But a lot of people would say that, we're Trump supporters, or, and it doesn't matter if you're a Republican or Democrat. What you're saying is this is a system that probably both parties use, except that the Democrats are the ones getting caught and using it on a mass scale, correct? This has nothing to do with Trump losing or winning the election. This has to do with voter fraud.
So what I've told numerous people when I've been working with this is it's a money thing, okay? So it happens to be the Democrats in Harris County doing it. But at the end of the day, if I or somebody came to these people with 5 times as much money, they'd do it for us. So these loopholes are there for anybody, okay? So one group's taking advantage of it right now. And so at the end of the day, it's not a party thing as much as it's a money thing, okay? It just so happens in Harris County that a group of Democrats are the ones that's doing it here. And what I've told several people too is there's problems on both sides. In other words, the Republicans, they knew, some of them knew that people were running this game in certain districts in Harris County and the surrounding areas and didn't care. They said, well, I'll let the crooks run that district. I don't care. Okay. Well, guess what? Those crooks got better and better. Okay. So now it's everywhere. So in other words, both parties have problems. In other words, when the Republicans were running Harris County, they shouldn't have allowed the corruption to go on in these districts. Okay. So yeah, so there's problems all around. I'm not trying to blame just one area. Do I vote conservative? Yes, I do. But at the end of the day, I don't care. Nobody needs to be doing this. This is cheating. And this is, like I've said to some other people, some groups will say in the media, they'll say, well, you're trying to suppress the black vote. I don't care if an extra 100,000 black people vote in Harris County, but I don't want 2 ballot harvesters deciding who all those 100,000 people are going to vote for. I wouldn't want it in any section of town.
Yeah, you see, and that makes sense because, like I said, a lot of people would be like, "Oh, we're Republicans and we're just mad because Trump lost." Whatever it is, what we're saying is this stuff goes on, and both parties do it. If one gets caught more than the other, whatever. But here's my question when it comes to Harris County down there. What is the we know it's a power play, and you being in law enforcement and and an investigator and all that good stuff. Ex-law enforcement.
So I'm a private investigator now.
Yeah, being investigations and stuff. We know politics is about power. We know that's what it's about. But in Houston, in that county, to have all of that influence and power, what are they doing with it, and what are they gaining by fixing the vote every cycle? I mean, it's like, is the county getting better, or is it going to the crapper? I mean, what is the outcome of what they're doing?
I'll use a couple of little examples here, like the flooding issue in Harris County. We got tons of money from Harvey, tons of money. We're still having flooding issues. In other words, that hasn't been improved. So where is this money going? So for an example, Ellis's wife works for a realty company and gets contracts. Okay. Her and her group gets contracts. Okay. They make, that company makes millions and millions of dollars off of contracts. Okay. So where is this money getting steered? In other words, was it happening before? Probably, but that don't make it right now. So in other words, either we all get together and stop this corruption, or it just continues with a different name.
Another follow-up. Now you have all these, fair play committees and these people that are supposed to be watchdogging this stuff. Here in California, I make a lot of campaign, complaints and things like that, and they investigate. And in California, I can't speak for Texas, but in California, all I do is get a letter saying that they warn these people, or they give them a little fine. Like you said, if that type of stuff is going on down there, and the Democratic machine is basically, or the Republican machine is basically running everything, a $300, $500 fine is nothing. So what could they do, even if you put in the complaint, other than the seriousness of the offense once it gets to the attorney generals? But I mean, you have these apparatuses out there for people to complain. What are they doing in regards to making sure these elections are being run fairly?
So in other words, there's some smoke and mirrors going on. In other words, in Harris County, the county judge said, well, we're going to give out receipts, which sounds good. You go to vote, you get a receipt. Okay. But that's smoke and mirrors. In other words, I can go to a grocery store, a convenience store, let's say, and I give the clerk money and I get a receipt and I leave. I don't know if he puts my money in his pocket or if it goes in the register. So the receipt really doesn't do any good. So in other words, I don't know for sure, just because they give me a receipt. We already get a receipt. When you vote in Harris County, you get a number. You go and you put that number in the machine. Okay. You can hold on to that number, and there is a way to go back and track whether or not that vote went through. Okay. But in other words, all you know is that you placed your vote. You don't know if it got to its end destination. Okay. That's another issue we're going to have. So
basically you're saying, if their vote got counted, you don't even know if it's got counted. You don't even know.
Yeah. So you don't know. And I will say, for some of these politicians that have won off of this cheating, some of them don't know how the sausage is made. Okay. They're told, hey, give this person $10,000, give this person $20,000. They'll make sure you win. Okay.
What is that called? Plausible denial?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, what I'm saying is some of them might not know. I don't know. I got the sausage. I don't know how it was made. Okay. But that's no excuse anymore because we're telling you.
So let me ask you a question, Chuck. I'm back. I apologize,
yes,
y'all. I'm not celebrating today. I'm actually out feeding the homeless in Third Ward, Texas. That's what I chose to do on this day. Here's the big question, because everybody says that I'm crazy, that you're crazy. Our good friend Aubrey Taylor writes a lot of different stories that he's crazy, but they said MLK was crazy too, though. But the thing is, are they cheating in Harris County, Chuck? Is there dead people voting?
Yes.
Like in the last general election, is there dead people voting in these elections?
Yes. And what some people need to understand is they might say, well, I'm a Democrat. I'm okay with dead people voting because it gives us more numbers. Guess what? They ain't just voting in the general election. They're voting in the primary too. Okay. That's why you have problems. Some people have problems in their neighborhood because their politician can get a 5% or 10% boost from the cheating. So at the end of the day, they only have to do a little bit of campaigning. Okay. So what you're doing is you're killing the ability of the citizens in their district to say, my politician's not doing anything. It's been here 25, 30 years. I want them out. I want to give somebody else an opportunity. Well, guess what? They're not going to get that opportunity because when they try, they're going to get cheated.
Well, I tell you what, I got to run for public office in November. I'm running for school board. So I know a lot of these politicians are going to watch this show. If you don't stay out of my race, don't put your friend in my race, don't play with my early ballots in my race. If you do, I guarantee you going to jail. I'm telling you before you even think about it. You, your crooked pastors, all of y'all. Now, when we say that they're cheating, have you even found evidence of dead people voting, or even people that may be alive that's voting in the Harris County primaries in general, but yet they don't even live here? Have you found any of that?
Yes. And so what we'll do next show is I will get the audio for you, and we'll even see if we can get some of these family members to come on and talk, because they weren't happy when I talked to them about this. I mean, and it's a hard thing to do, to call people up out of the blue and start talking to them about their relative that's passed away 10 or 20 years ago and start bringing up this information. Well, but when I showed some of these people the application for a absentee ballot, they looked at it and they said, well, one, parent dead. Two, that's not my parent's signature. Three, I don't know who Tomar Bishop is. I don't know who Gloria Palmer is. I don't know who Ray Charles Jones is. So, I mean, it's a handful of people doing this in different little sections. So this is one area in Houston that we've been looking at. In other words, what some people say was, why don't you have 10,000 right now? Well, guess what? I'm not rich. I do have to work and make a living. So this is almost a side thing I do. So I don't get very much money to do this. And this takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort. And so I've been working on it for about almost a year now. I guess a little more than a year. And these people have been building this system for 15 or 20 years. So it's not like I just come in 1 year and completely prove everything and dismantle it. But I'm working on it, and it's getting easier and easier. What you have to realize is some of these ballot harvesters, when they started off, they could do 4,000 or 5,000 ballots that they could cheat on. Okay. But what happens the more you do something and nobody interferes with it, or you're never under threat that you're going to get arrested, you up your game each time, because you got your set number. Now you just add another 5,000 to it next cycle. Now you add another 5,000 next cycle. So now you get up to 40,000 votes at some point. Okay. and they reached that number easy. Okay. And what happened in 2020, COVID was a dream come true for them. Okay. They, you know, here they're saying they care about the people in their community, but they love COVID coming in, because what happened was the like you talked about earlier, they were trying to send out, it was like 2.4 or 2.2 million absentee ballots. So that's for every registered voter in Harris County. So that's all these ballots floating around. Now, how many people are still at their same address, you know, voting? Okay. And how many of these people have passed away? How many of these people have moved out of the state? And if you don't think they don't have a system to figure some of that out, you're naive.
Well, let me ask you this. You know, we understand. I mean, well, we don't understand, but
Yes.
you know, the Chicago tactics of the dailies and stuff, with the, you know, the people being buried and all this other stuff. How is it that people in that county, and let's say you live in 3rd Ward or 9th Ward or whatever the ward it is, and you see your neighborhood just getting decimated in crime and streets, and the resources are going other places, but the same party keeps winning over and over? Now, I'm a statistics guy. I like math and all that other stuff. Statistically, it wouldn't make sense that a Democratic Party or a Republican Party could consistently have the same representative over a certain time span. I mean, how are they getting away with it? Because like here in California, we have Maxine Waters that's been in there for 30 years. And it's like, wait a minute, how is she doing this when the area is being gentrified? So we know a lot of Black people ain't voting for her because they've been moved out of the area. So how is she winning election after election? You know what I mean? I mean, you want to put a little probability in there.
Well, part of the problem is this. In other words, I want more Black people to vote. The issue is when a Black neighborhood or district, mostly Black neighborhood or district, very few go to vote, they steal the other votes. Okay. So the more Black people that vote in these neighborhoods, the more fair the election will be. And what they're doing is they're just taking advantage of people that don't go vote. Okay. So people get apathy because they get tired of Sheila Jackson Lee or somebody being there. And so they said, well, I'm not going to go vote. Well, guess what? There's a 50% chance somebody's going to steal your vote. Okay. And vote for you. And that's the reason she stays in there.
I know that to be true because I had a conversation with somebody at the time that I didn't know was a ballot harvester. I didn't know. And, you know, the thing was, is I was helping a candidate and they needed somebody to help them with their early ballots. So I called this person because they were known to help with early ballots. And what was told to me was, I can do 200 to 300 a day and never leave my house. How you can do 200-300 early ballots a day? How you doing early ballots? Don't worry about that. I can do 200-300 a day and never leave my house. So I had to figure out, okay, if you never leave the house, how are they locating the voters? How are they figuring it out? Well, here's the magic word. All you little Democrats, I want to call you out your name, you Democratic folk that think y'all slick. You're using the van system. You're using the van system because the van system can tell you everywhere the voters are located. They can tell you if they voted in the primary, the general. They can tell you their email address, their phone numbers, if they got multiple numbers. And this is how you know. So then you filter that information down to your people who sit in their houses and fill out early ballots. Oh, by the way, y'all, I'm not crazy. I know exactly what I'm talking about. And if we don't know what we're talking about, why won't any politician debate us? You're welcome to come on the show. You're welcome to have a dignified conversation with us. But I'm going to tell you, we're going to eat greedy. We're going to pick you apart with them lies. That is how they're doing it. They're using the van system.
Yeah. Well, how about this question? Okay, this is going to, you know, there's corruption going on, whatever. Chuck, what are some of the penalties that some of these people are going to be facing? Because if I've been in politics for 30 something years, let's say I've been in there for 15, 20, I know judges, I know, you know, some of the people that are going to be judging me and giving me sentencing. I mean, what kind of, you know, penalties, you know, do some of these people face?
Well, they face big charges related to a conspiracy. And that's what we've been working on. Now, the individual stuff, some of it's misdemeanors. And so that's what that voter integrity, some of those voter integrity laws that the Texas legislature is going to pass later this year is going to address and make them felonies. In other words, you know, these ballot harvesters. Go ahead.
So what you're telling me, in a sense, they don't want the voter integrity laws to be passed because they've upped the criminal penalties on them, and they know that the misdemeanors will now be felonies.
Mm-hmm. And it's going after a couple of key issues. Ballot harvesting. It's going to make that illegal. Okay. And two, it's going to start digging into some of the stuff that these election judges have been doing, where they're kicking poll watchers out or keeping them out of rooms when they shove several boxes of ballots, absentee ballots, into a room, which I have 2 affidavits of that happening this November. So it happens. Okay. And so we're collecting and we're keeping you know, records on this, and we're organizing it. And I'm telling you, at the end of the day, people are going to go down.
Well, how about this now? We have the midterms are coming up, which is Sheila Jackson Lee and all the basic congressmen half of them have to participate in this type of situation. So with the midterms coming up, how much of this corruption do you think is going to continue now that they kind of know people are kind of, you know, getting hip to the game?
Let me jump in there real quick. I don't think Gerald Womack believes fat meat is greasy. Gerald Womack works for Sheila Jackson Lee. He don't believe fat meat greasy because ain't nothing ever happened to him. And I think them deciding if they want to up the ante, keep it going, depends on if this voter integrity law is signed into a bill before the election. If it is, I don't think they're going to try it. Because if they get caught, they're going to jail. Mr. Womack, if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to go to jail. That's all it boils down to. Yeah, I'm being the bad guy, Gerald. Because you sit in Third Ward, Texas, and your ability to affect elections has decimated my community.
Speaking of Gerald,
decimated my community.
Speaking of Gerald, I've got an affidavit from somebody who can put Gerald giving money to these ballot harvesters. So he better be worried.
I mean, you know, I was born in the South, you know, and I love Texas. I love Houston. I got family members down there and everything like that. Yeah. Chuck, how long do you think, I mean, politics is politics, but how long do you think that this stuff has been going on down there? I mean, does this go back to when we were younger kids?
I think it was. I think it's one of those situations where, you know, think about it like basketball or football. You know, there was good football players in the 1920s or the 1930s, but how's the game gotten now? Has it gotten faster, better? You know, have the coaches gotten better with their plays and their systems? I mean, it just keeps getting better and better if you allow this cheating to go on. So in other words, to compare, you know, the 1925 champion football team to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers of this year, there's no comparison. So at some point this needs to stop, or otherwise we're Mexico. You know, you have your wealthy elite who decide who gets elected, and then you have everybody else that serfs. You know, you don't have any vibrant middle class because they're going to kill it off because the middle class is the ones that kind of check into things and say, whoa, what's going on here? Because when you're poor, you have a hard time setting aside extra time to deal with these issues because you're trying to make a living and feed your family. But when you start having a little bit of money and a little bit of wherewithal, you have time to dig into these issues. That's a threat to people at the top that that want the cheating to continue. And that's not a race thing.
Yeah,
that's just a pure, animalistic thing.
Right, exactly. Here in California, we have a high Hispanic population in Southern California, and you guys are getting a high Hispanic population there. And the problem that we're having is, and I'm not trying to stereotype, like I said, it's a human thing. It's not a racial thing. You have in politics here where I'm at is you have 12 Hispanics living in one house, and they're harvesting the ballots through there. And you're thinking, wait a minute, hold up. You got 12 people living, of all of them, 12 people, adults of legal age in one house, 2-bedroom house. And you're thinking, wait a minute. And it's like, let's say there's 8 houses on the block. Out of the 8, 7 of them have 12 to 15 people living in it that can vote. And the funny thing is, the only party here in my city that does this, or in my county that does this, is the Democratic Party. Because, Hispanics predominantly here vote Democrat, which is fine. But the thing is, it's like, and then when I put in a complaint with the election officials, they were like, well, yeah. And some of them were caught because some of them were not legal residents of the United States. Some of them people were caught, but they just basically put a slap on the wrist and everything was just go on to the next election, and we're just like, wait a minute, hold up, 12, 15 people in a 10-house area, 8 of the 10 houses have the same type of people with the same names. I mean, no offense to the Lopez's and the Gonzalez's, but golly, they all have the same name, and you just move a letter for the middle name, and you got all these votes. And this is how they're winning elections here in California. And as you know, California's been running to the ground.
But Chuck, I want to have a little fun next week. We ain't going nowhere, y'all. I wanna just bust some people. I wanna just throw them out there. You don't have to do it. I'm gonna do it for you. And I wanna discuss what I call the Evelyn factor. The Evelyn factor. Evelyn Dupree. I want to discuss.
We've got a lot of stuff on her. We got a lot of stuff.
Here's what I want to do next week. We can talk about Evelyn, but I want to tie her to some of the campaigns in the last general, but from a different way. What I want you to do, and we'll talk about this off air, tie Evelyn to the campaigns, and then I'm going to show y'all during the early voting how many of those people fired her once she got caught. Hold on. What you saying, Monroe? I'm going to put the politicians on a plate next week. Every one of y'all that fired Evelyn, all the poll workers that didn't get paid, at the end was calling me, we throwing you under the bus next week. The Evelyn factor in Southeast Houston has destroyed election runs. It has destroyed election runs. And their hands were all over several campaigns. Jolanda Jones, it was all over Rodney Ellis, everybody. And I'm going to throw y'all under the bus. What you think about the Evelyn factor, Chuck?
Yeah, we have a lot of stuff on Evelyn. Okay. Evelyn used to get money from Gerald Womack, get checks from Gerald Womack, and she used to pay her people cash. All right. And we're talking a lot of cash. And so her ground teams without, hitting the street. Now, granted, some of what they were doing was legal, putting out push cards and stuff, but that wasn't what their purpose was. In other words, their real purpose was to run the ballot harvesting. Okay. And so what's sad is some of these people were involved in a conspiracy. They were only making $10 to $12.
She definitely paid people in cash because when I first got in the game, she paid me in cash, but I did my job at the polls.
Mm-hmm.
I did my job. But in this
Well,
last general, during the early voting cycle, Donovan, Evelyn's whole team was fired. Let me put it a different way. You judges that was running for office, remember that meeting y'all had behind the scenes and y'all had to get rid of her because she was about to tank y'all runs because everybody knew? I'm putting you out there next week. Remember, you don't support me no way, so I ain't got nothing to lose. What you gonna do, get mad? No. Y'all, and see, we want to believe that these politicians don't know what these people are doing. But when you know the reputation of somebody, you don't tend to hire them when they got a tainted reputation. So they knew what these people brought to the table. And they knew what they were doing. So it is what it is. I don't care if you Evelyn. I don't care if you Ron Jackson. I'm throwing all y'all under the bus because y'all are dirty. And some of the good people that ran, that used their 401ks to fund their campaigns, their hard-earned money, I'm doing it for them.
Foster, let me ask
because
you this.
It's time to put y'all out of business. Now,
Yeah.
I'm going to challenge y'all. I wouldn't recommend y'all use Evelyn in this next cycle because she's under a microscope, and I'd hate to have to see you in a federal courtroom. Chuck?
Yep.
Yeah, well, Foster, let me ask you this, though. If all these, okay, if all this stuff comes out, the DA comes down and the Attorney General comes down, and all these people start getting arrested, and all this, this stuff just starts happening, wouldn't that make the people lose confidence in the electoral system down there?
Well, I think people lost confidence in this last election. I mean, in other words, what's the purpose of shoving the other party out of a polling location other than to cheat? Okay. So is blatant on some of this stuff that goes on.
I mean, go ahead. It just, okay. So we've got that going on. We know elections are different than other things, but what does the law enforcement down there are doing about it in regards to complaints, in regards to, like you said, conspiracy and all this stuff? Is the Houston Police Department investigating?
So that's a good question. So during the election cycle, I gave evidence to the supposed task force that they set up down here. Guess what? The 4 people that headed the task force were all in the election. They were riding on these absentee ballots that were going to help them win. Okay. We gave them lockdown evidence of cheating going on. Okay. They like a good attorney, you can always find some little minuscule thing to say, well, it's not as big an issue, and we really didn't find anything. They didn't want to find anything, okay, because their butts were riding on the election, and that was the DA, that was Allen, the constable, okay, that was the county clerk, and the district clerk. I mean, it was a joke.
Well, I don't think that the DA would have done anything because Dupree worked her campaign.
Yep.
So the ballot harvester was working for the DA. And all of a sudden you turn in evidence that proves that these people are doing this, and the DA don't move on it.
And they sat on it. Exactly. They sat on it.
And then they come back months later and try to throw Damian Thaddeus Jones and Richard Bonton under the bus to try to side, they tried to distract us with that. We don't want to hear that. We gave you some major stuff. So what we're saying is one of these major ballot harvesters worked the campaign of the Harris County District Attorney. So they did the same thing on her campaign. Now I know she'll say, I don't have any knowledge of that. Well, that's cool.
Gary, going to another matter. I gave the DA's office back the beginning of last year, I gave the DA's office a packet of information about Ellis and the African art. Has he been arrested yet? No.
He hasn't been
Is this the African art in the airport?
No, the African art that's in that warehouse in my community. Say, man, I'm talking about Rodney. Rodney, he hasn't been convicted. He hasn't been arrested. But why would you be retaining four of the most high-powered attorneys in the city of Houston right now? What you need them for?
Guess when he retained them? When I started going after him and it started becoming public and I started talking to people. So our DA can't do shit. Our HPD couldn't do shit. And so finally I start digging into it and he starts getting some high-powered attorneys. Tell me he ain't guilty.
And if you're not guilty, Mr. Commissioner, would you love? You went on Candace Matthews' show. Why don't you come on Dirty Politrikz and show the people you ain't guilty of anything? Or are you too busy out there riding your bicycle, faking like you working for the people? So whether you Ellis, whether you Sheila, whoever, you are not doing right by the people. And now some of the people have a problem with you. And Chuck, you were doing such a great job of really digging off into this thing. They even broke in Chuck's truck one day, man. Trying to get the evidence out the truck.
Yeah, they thought they got my laptop and they didn't. So, but one thing more important than that, and this I want to speak directly to Ellis. So Ellis's lackey that works with his wife, Lance Gillum, called me when I started digging into this, and it was obvious that I was the one digging into it. And Lance Gillum, I recorded that conversation, and he tried to get me to go do a PI job doing surveillance in the middle of the night at an abandoned apartment complex with some bullshit case. Okay, so Ellis, you better watch out because I take that very seriously. You trying to have me killed in a fucking abandoned apartment complex.
You know what? The funny thing is that was my next question, because when I started getting involved in the corruption and politics here in my city, my mom said, because the big thing in my city is we're trying to stop it. Well, we did stop it. A major warehouse. It was going to be the biggest warehouse in the United States. $4 billion into these developers' pockets that it had to do with it, right? So I'm talking to my mom and she goes, boy, you know how these Southern moms are, boy, yeah. You black, they gonna kill you. They will kill you for a ham sandwich down there, you know, get involved in that kind of mess. And that was one of the questions I was going to ask with you being an investigator, and I know you could take care of yourself and all like that, or have there been any death threats? And, you know, doing this kind of stuff, people could end up killed.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly what they were trying to do. I mean, he specifically said, hey, I need you to do the surveillance. You're going to have to put this person to bed, which in surveillance lingo means late at night till the lights go off. And it's an abandoned apartment complex in a part of town where crime rate's high. I mean, how much effort would it take to pay some crackhead to come up behind my car and shoot at me?
Well, I tell you what, I don't know what it is. Chuck, I think you're a nice guy, man. I really do think you're a good guy. Donovan, you're a good guy. Why they don't try that with me, man? Why they don't, man, these folk will not blow no smoke my way.
You want to know why a 5-star, you know, like yourself, like me, they think you're, you know, hey, he's already crazy. Let him just stay out there. You know, you're far left or right, wherever you are. So they're not kind of concerned until you start bringing the goods.
Well, see, here's the thing about me, and I value my life. I don't play games. See, I'm different than Chuck. I'm different. I handle things a little bit differently than Chuck. I wish they would do something like that with me. It ain't gonna go the way they think it's gonna go. But I don't know why they will not. Man, can y'all give me some action, man? Can y'all just try it at least? Because if you try it and you try to shoot me and it don't work, gonna be trouble. Gonna be trouble.
Right. Well, well, Chuck has a law enforcement background, and he's an investigator now. If something happened to the 5-star, the likely subject would be who? You know what I mean? That would be the first indication, I guess, if something happened to the 5-star. The likely suspects that would have wanted to have him killed would be the first people questioned.
Well, and what some of them need to realize is it doesn't stop if you take one of us out. In other words, it's going to keep going. You're just adding another crime to the multitude of crimes you've already got. Before I started working for the FBI, I had been shot, stabbed, bit, run over. I'm not going to be worried by Ellis. He's a punk. And, bring it on.
Let me do a quick follow-up. Should we start worrying, or not necessarily worrying, but kind of be suspicious if some of these politicians mysteriously start retiring or leaving the game? Should we kind of link that kind of stuff together? Because sometimes if they've been in there for 15, 20 years and all of a sudden they decide to leave, is the kitchen getting too hot? Or, should we think that maybe something's catching up to them?
Ellis is still trying to build that campaign funds with the investing in all of the stock market stuff. So he's got some number that him and his wife and family got to reach from the corruption. And then, but the heat's getting so big, he needs to think twice about that.
Because we're going to take you down. I can promise you that. You're going to get got. You're going to get got. Well, some of y'all already got. I'm going to be honest with you. Some of y'all going to federal penitentiary. I'm just waiting for the day they knock on the door. Because when they knock, they already done built the case. Some of y'all are going to jail for what you have done. But the bigger picture to me is what they have done. People don't understand what these people have done to our communities. Now, I've talked to several Caucasian people, and maybe you can answer this because some days I think Chuck is black, but he look Caucasian today. And the thing is, from a Caucasian perspective, what would you tell the black people about what these people are doing to them through this cheating and voting process?
So like I was saying before, it's just, you look at the areas that this cheating has been prevalent. Okay. There's no improvement from 10 years ago. There's no improvement from 20 years ago. Okay. You look at the areas where the races flip back and forth. There's been lots of improvement. Okay. Competition is good. All right. These stagnant politicians that have been there, you don't need to work for your check if you can get 5 or 10% cheap on the vote. And I'm not coming as some saint. I grew up in Louisiana. I've said every racial slur there was when I was growing up, and sometimes as an adult. I've cheated on my ex-wives. I'm no saint, so I'm not coming here saying that everybody doesn't have dirt. But what I'm saying is, at some point, we have to stop these big crooks, because whether or not you've done some, things in your life that, everybody's had sin or done something, that's one thing. But when you're committing sin on 2 million people, that's a bigger issue. That's a more important issue, and that's something that needs to be done.
Yeah, big problem. One of my last questions is, there was a thing, and it was in the news, it was in newspapers, it was in magazines, the black girl magic that happened on the court. Could there possibly be a link to why all of those black women got judgeships in Texas?
Can I help you with that one? That's part of what we're going to talk about next week. I'm telling you, the ballot harvesters were working for the judges in the last election, the election before that, and they had to fire them spur of the moment. So yeah, there is a link. There is a link. They're all using the same people. And what it is, they have this rotating system. They have a rotating system of politicians where they decide, the kingmakers, who's going to sit in what seat. They make the decision before the election. So it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter how much you campaign. They're going to stack the deck. So if I can answer that, and then Chuck can answer it on his end. But from my end, it's all connected.
Wow, that's amazing. Because, you know, remember I told you at the beginning of the show, I'm a statistics type person. I know the numbers. I deal with numbers, have a degree in aerospace. And all of those black female judges, and I'm a black person, I was like, wait a minute, that did not make sense statistically that all of those women got elected in the same election cycle. And nobody thought anything about it.
And like I said, some of the people that are new to the game, you can't necessarily hold everybody responsible as much as the people that have been running the system for a long time. Because I guarantee you, and I know from talking to some people, that what happened was they said, you want to get elected, you pay me $20,000 and I'll make sure the magic happens. Okay. And so you can call that an excuse once. So I give some of these people credit. They might not have known how that sausage was made, but you do now because we're talking to you. We're telling. And we're bringing up evidence of it.
Well, here's the thing, too, because I don't want our little brother to be left out. Cynthia Ginyard, Democratic Party chair, I'm coming for y'all, too. Y'all ain't no better than Harris County out there. Because one night, a few months ago, you turned the whole county black. Something ain't right. And I just been digging. So, Ms. Ginyard, yeah, I said your name. What you gonna do about it? Tell people don't let me work their campaigns? I don't care. But this thing where they're doing this is over, man. And if you want to play the law average and you want to keep doing it, then keep doing it. And you, too, can go meet El Chapo in the federal penitentiary.
Well, Donovan, I'll tell you this, since you're from Louisiana, too. I don't mind making the roux and naturally it gets dark. I have no problem with that. But you throw some cheap-ass food coloring in there to get an outcome, it ain't going to taste right, and it ain't going to be gumbo. So
absolutely, man. That's a great analogy. But woo, you know, I just want to say, you know, in closing, that this is a problem that is going on all across the United States. And if people don't wake up, all this democracy that we're talking, we're fooling ourselves if we don't stand up. And it's going to take Republicans and Democrats and real Americans to say enough of the bull. We want free and fair elections, period.
Well, I know one election that's going to be straight. It's going to be free. It's going to be fair. That's the District 9 school board race. Because all you kingmakers are going to stay out of my race. I promise you, if you don't, you're going to have some helicopters over your house. And they're not going to be just flying over your house to take pictures. They're coming to get you. You better stay out of my race. I'm doing pretty good right now, too. But, Chuck, I tell you what, we don't want to give away too much tonight. I think we had a great opening show. And next week, y'all, we're going to talk about the Evelyn factor. So, Chuck, if you can, bring that evidence. And next week, y'all, I'm not going to be in the car. I'm not going to be at an event. I'm going to be sitting in front of the laptop so we can give you the full effect of what we're talking about. So we can show you the evidence. And that way, you can make the conscious decision. So for a first show, I think we knocked it out the park. And on behalf of my good friends, the recovering Democrat, Donovan Sadiq, and my good friend, Chuck Mauler, say, man, we'll see you next week. Dirty Politrikz, 7 o'clock.
Hey, I want to thank both of y'all for letting me come in here and talk with y'all every Saturday. I really appreciate it.
Welcome to the hood, Chuck. Welcome to the hood.
Thank y'all.
All right, y'all. We'll see y'all next Saturday.